Good morning, everybody. My name is Troubat. I'm consultant in food security statistics, and I'm here today to present the main lines of a proposal that we have developed with Andrea Borlizzi and Michael Shop to conduct an experiment to assess the calories consumed away from home and estimate it from data collected in household consumption and expenditure surveys. This presentation is about dietary energy consumption, and later I will refer to calories, food consumed away from home, and household consumption expenditure surveys. And it is important to estimate the amount of calories consumed in a country because this information is used in food security and poverty assessments. So getting the calories right is as important as getting the total expenditure right. And with food away from home, we mean the food and the beverage that are prepared, acquired, and consumed away from the dwelling. So whatever we consume in a restaurant, on a bar, or on the streets, or also in canteens or during ceremonies. And this consumption with time has really become an important component of modern diet. But as this consumption is done outside the dwellings by individuals, obviously it's not easy to capture in household consumption expenditure surveys that are designed to capture the consumption at the level of the household. So aware of this challenge, the World Bank and the FAO and the guidelines that they're developed in 2018 on how to better capture food in household consumption expenditure surveys, they added some recommendations on also how to better capture food away from home. And based on these recommendations, the data collection should preferably be done at the individual level. And of course, we can have a proxy respondent in case of children. Also, it is recommended to have a separate module to collect food consumed away from home, so a module completely different than the in-house food consumption. Data collection should be organized around meal events, and important not to exclude foods like snacks and drinks. At a minimum, the surveys should collect information on the value of all the meals that are consumed during a meal event away from home. And if a meal has been received for free, then a value of the cost of that meal should be also provided. The meal event list should be adapted to the local context. And finally, the surveys should always use the same reference period to capture in-house food consumption and food consumed outside the house. So in 2019, the PSMB endorsed the guidelines, and starting from this date, all the surveys that were conducted in the Pacific used the 7-day recall module on meals consumed away from home. And as we can see from this graph, all the countries using the 7-day recall module are reporting a share of expenditure on food away from home to total food expenditure that is much higher than countries that were using the old approach. That means one line to collect only the amount spent in restaurants. So in that graph, Vanuatu seems to be an outlier, but if we look at this share in urban area, it is really close to 10%, which is quite close to what we would observe also in Kiribati and other countries. If we can say that the amount of food away from home is relatively well captured with the new module, what about calories? What can we say about the estimate of calories? So this is different because to estimate calories, we would need information on the quantities and also on the composition of each meal consumed away from home. And this information is very difficult and expensive to collect in the context of a national household survey. Nutritionists have been working on developing tools that use new technologies, but these tools so far have been used only for dietary assessment of small groups of individuals. Even the World Bank FAO guidelines are falling short in providing recommendations on how we can estimate the nutrient content of food consumed away from home. And the only reference to that is through the addition of an ad hoc survey on food establishments. Now, as information on quantities, composition of the meals, or even on restaurant survey is not available, we need to develop indirect ways of estimating the calories consumed away from home. And one of this way is based on the cost of 1 calorie consumed in the house. So basically what we do, we estimate the cost of 1 calorie consumed in the house, and we apply that cost to the amount spent to consume food away from home. So this approach assumes that the composition and the price of a food basket consumed in and outside the house are very similar. World Bank is using a flat cost, but to account for the cost of running a business or for marketing margins, this cost of 1 calorie is multiplied by an adjustment factor. FAO in turn is using the median cost by income quintile and area. But the problem is, since we don't have a benchmark, something that tells us what is the true amount of calorie consumed away from home, the calorie cost approach has never really been assessed, and we don't really know by how much we deviate from the true amount of dietary energy consumed away from home. Therefore, what we propose is, with this experiment, to assess the World Bank FAO approach based on the average cost of 1 calorie consumed in the house, and also propose alternative methods to collect food away from home in a more comprehensive and cost-effective way in the context of household surveys. So this survey experiment has been designed for countries that will conduct a survey according to the World Bank FAO guidelines. Means that they will adopt the 7-day recall module to collect information on in-house food consumption, and the 7-day recall module to collect the number of meals consumed away from home by meal event and filled by individuals. So for that experiment, we will collect food away from home with 2 different modules. So we will have a set of households that we filled 1 module that we will consider as our benchmark. Means we will try to collect food away from home in the most exhaustive way, so we can have a direct estimate of calories consumed away from home. And we will have another set of households that will fill the questionnaire that correspond to the World Bank FAO guidelines, means the 7-day recall module on meals consumed away from home by meal event. So since we want to test the cost of 1 calorie consumed in the house, of course, we need information on in-house food consumption. So we will also have 1 module that will collect this information. Since we want to also assess the World Bank method with the FAO method, we also need to have more information on the characteristics of the household. So combining information from Module 1 and Module 2, we will estimate the median cost of 1 calorie consumed in the house by socioeconomic characteristics of the household. Using that median cost, we will estimate an indirect amount of calories consumed away from home. And from the benchmark, of course, we will estimate a direct measure. Comparing the direct measure with the indirect measure, we will be able to assess the accuracy of the indirect estimate. From the benchmark, we will also be able to estimate the cost of 1 calorie consumed away from home with the cost of 1 calorie consumed in the house. And the comparison of these 2 costs will allow us also to revise the cost adjustment factor. But also from the benchmark, we will be able to estimate the calorie contained in 1 representative meal consumed away from home. So on average, what is the amount of calories contained in a breakfast consumed away from home, in the lunch, in meals, in a dinner, or a snack? And these calories, this amount of calories, we can apply it on the number of meals consumed away from home to estimate another indirect measure of calories consumed away from home. And we can compare the indirect calories consumed away from home using the cost of 1 calorie approach and also using the calorie per meal approach. Of course, when we will compare Module 3 and Module 4, we will be also be able to assess the performance of the World Bank FAO guidelines. But all these experiments really depends on our ability to really capture what we would call the true amount of dietary energy consumed away from home. So for that, we are planning to develop a database that will be a repository of meals consumed away from home. And in that database, we will have information on pictures, recipes, nutrient content, cost, places of consumption, portions of all the possible meals that can be consumed away from home in the country. So to create this repository, we will organize a food group discussion. So we will invite national representatives to discuss with them the consumer behavior with respect to food consumption away from home. So where are the main places where we can consume meals away from home? What are the main meals we can consume? Together with these discussions, we will also do some web scraping. So go to the internet and look at the website of the restaurants, try to find some recipe, and so on. We will also launch a national initiative where we will ask individuals when they go and have meals away from home to give us some information about these meals. So take pictures and provide the composition of the meal, the portion of the meal, and the place of consumption, and enter this information into a dedicated website. Of course, this initiative will be on a voluntary basis. So from the focus group discussions, the web scraping, and the crowdsourcing, we will develop a sample design that we will use to conduct our restaurant survey. So we call it restaurant survey, but it will be survey performed to all the food provider. Once all this data is collected, we will work with a nutritionist to estimate the nutrient content of each meal. And also we will develop a database and a website because we want this database be available online, and also we want people to be able to download it and access it offline. So once we have created the repository, we will develop a special module. Household members will be asked to fill the module each day for 7 days. They will be given access to the repository, and if they don't have access to an electronic device, then they will have a printout of the main meals consumed away from home. They will be asked to select the picture that best describes the meals that they have consumed. And if they cannot find the picture, then they will be asked to re-describe the meal that they consumed away from home. So we hope to visit the household at least twice within a period of 7 days. And if resources allow, it would be preferable to visit the household each day through a period of 7 days. What we expect from this experiment is to obtain a more precise estimate of the calories consumed away from home that we can use to assess the calorie cost approach. We also hope to derive the average amount of calories in one meal consumed away from home, and also the average cost of 1 calorie consumed away from home by meal event and place of consumption, and revise the cost adjustment factor. With this experiment, we also want to propose an innovative way to collect data in a more comprehensive way. We also want to develop a set of region-specific cost adjustment factors. We want to develop a protocol to collect food away from home that can also be tested in other regions in the world, and of course, establish the 7-day recall module proposed in the FAO World Bank guidelines. The experiment will be part of an ongoing survey, and hopefully in Samoa, with the Samoa Bureau of Statistics as a partner, for a tentative budget of $250,000.